The boys. All right. Good morning. Today is Lamed Beis. So we left off the top of Lamed Beis. We left off the top of Lamed Beis. 4 lines in the top. Amar Rava. So we had a case for the Mishnah. Just to go back real quick. So the case in the Mishnah was 3 brothers that married 3 women, right, of which they were not related to one another. And one of them died, the oldest, we'll call him Reuben, right? So and then one of them does Maimer, right? He does the Kedushin, Umes, and then he died. Right? So in that case, then he dies after the Maimer. So these do Chalitza and not Yibum, right? Because the pasuk says only Zika from one and not the other. So Amar Rava. But let's say in this case, Nasan get l'maimar. Let's say when Rava says, let's say, so he gives a get, and then before he dies, right? He gives a get to that mimer. He removes that mimer, that kedushin, with his get. Hutra tzarasa. So the tzara, the other one, is mutter, right? She can go ahead and be taken in yibum. Why? Because she obviously Shimon's wife, right, was not related at all, and therefore she falls, and she was not also with the other woman. But this lady's asur. Why? Because people might confuse that if the other one, in other words, that Ruvain's original wife, so going back to the case with 3 brothers, right? So you have 3 brothers. Right, actually, only 2 wives right here. All policemen? Yeah, all police. Yeah. So, actually, face it out. We got to fix the audience, right? So we say if this one died, right, and then he takes her in Maimer, and then he divorces her with the Maimer, and then he dies, right? So the other brother, in addition to being able to take her, he can take her, but we don't want him to take her. Why? It's a gzeira according to this way, right? Because if we allow him, because that was removed, and now remember, if he gives the get to the mimer, then she's back from the zika of the one brother, and then so it's basically like 2 brothers that died, and both women fall to yibum. However, we don't want her to go ahead and do it because people might confuse this case, right? That people might think that the get, right, was that people might think that a get would be given if it was given stam for mimer and chalitza, then she's not completely removed. So therefore, we don't want to confuse this case with other cases where someone didn't specifically give the get for the mimer, where there's no zika from the first brother, and therefore we don't allow her to do to go ahead and do yibum. However, Ikad Amri.
So brother number 1 is going to have no person. Brother number 3 then.
Right.
His wife will not go to anyone.
In this case. Correct, right? Because the mimer, we don't want him to go ahead and do yibum, and therefore, correct, there will be no yibum for that. Right? She had to do chalitza. We'll go back to the case of the chalitzas. And he says, if he does go ahead and give a get to her, so he does mimer to her, and then he gives her a get. So basically, she reverts back to the original zika from the first brother. Therefore, not only is she mutter to go ahead, which is right before the Mishnah, so too, she could also go ahead and do yibum with him, and he can do yibum with both because they're falling from different brothers, right? At my time, what's the reason? My diababa shabdi, that whichever he did, whatever mimer he did to her, was removed with the get. So therefore, it's like he died, and therefore each one fall to the other brother for yibum. Right? Now the Mishnah. We're at the Mishnah Lamed Beis. So Shnei Akin, you got 2 brothers. They marry 2 sisters. Shnei Achayos. Umeis Echon Mehen. Now, the 2 brothers marry 2 sisters. Okay. Now, one of them dies. This guy dies. All right. Now, he still can't go ahead and marry her. Why? It's his wife's sister, right? Because they married sisters. So and then the wife of brother number 2 dies. Well, wait, look. you're no longer my brother. The brother died, and you're no longer my wife's sister because she died. Right? She's also, there's no evil here. She can't take her. Why? Because the moment when Reuben died, right? Okay. So she can't. She's usher him because it's her sister's husband, right? She can't marry his sister's husband, right? So therefore, she's no longer evil, right? She's completely patur. Then if she dies 2 days later, it doesn't make her mutter back to be mutter. She has the isser of basically his brother's wife who had a child, right? So the same isser, shalom makom mitzvah, therefore would remain usher. Fine. So that was the Mishnah.
The man, the man's wife dies, he can then marry normally. He got the evil.
Right.
He can then marry his wife's sister. Obviously, that's why she'd potentially be mutter.
Right. Yeah. Correct. Right. Yeah. Right.
Right.
We're going to get to the two sort of Eshes Achiv and Achos Ishto, right? Because they're not the same. Very good. So the first thing the Gemara says, Pshita, this halachic ruling, l'chayra, is obvious. Why? Because we have the Mishnah, which the Gemara does not bring. So the Rashi references the Mishnah over, if you just look at the Rashi, right? Rashi and Daf Lamed, right? Two about earlier. I'm just going to read for the Rashi, right? So which Gemara's, we have the Mishnah earlier. Basically, we're going to say we had a Mishnah earlier with the bigger Kiddush. Why do we have to say this one, right? Gabi Shleishach, over there were three brothers, right? Right? Two of them married two sisters, right? We'll have these two, they're both in the green, they're sisters. And the Levi has the other wife, right? So he said that case over there. So this guy married another woman, right? Now this guy dies, okay? So this guy, right? She can't fault him for even because that's her sister's husband, right? So she goes to this guy, right? Now this guy, this lady died, right? And then this guy dies. Okay. Now these two fall to evil. She obviously, right? Well, not I don't want to say anything, obviously, right? Now here's the question: her sister is no longer married to him, and the isser of marrying your wife's sister only applies when she's alive. But after she dies, then it's mutter to marry your sister. A man can marry two sisters, if he marries the first one and then she dies, he can marry the other sister. Now, in this case, she's dead, so she can marry him. He said, no. Since earlier, with the first time you fell to Yibum, you were usher to him. Therefore, now, when you fall again from the other brother, you're still usher to him. You can't marry him. Because since you couldn't marry the first time, you can't marry him anymore. So
the
that's fine. Now the Gemara says, so pshita, it's obvious. In this case, in other words, where she's not completely pushed off, she's actually able to marry one brother, and then this brother, maybe she can marry. We say no, you can't, right? We say that's usher. So Hasha, in that case over there, but over here in our case, right? There's only two brothers. We say the guy dies, right? And she's completely patur for the mitzvah Yibum Chalitza. Then her sister dies. So the guy will go call. She can obviously that she's patur. She can't come back and say, "Oh no, wait, now we have a mitzvah Yibum Chalitza." Over there, she was able to at least perform a Yibum Chalitza, and even nevertheless, the second time she falls, she's patur. So over here, you need to tell me that. So Koshke, the Gemara says, "No, Tana Bereisha." So first, our case, right, was we have this case. Satana Hatana Bereisha, the Sharia. In that other case, we wanted to go ahead and say the wife was mutter to go ahead and do Yibum when she falls to the second time to that brother. The Sharia, and then we say, you know what? Such a case still usher. And since that case, right, was chaviv because they changed the ruling. They went from mutter to usher. It was more of a chaviv of a precious ruling. They put that Mishnah first. A Mishnah doesn't become, and this Mishnah, since they taught it originally, right, So they didn't remove the Mishnah, they still kept the Mishnah, but the other Mishnah was a bigger Chiddush, and therefore we wanted to go ahead and state the bigger Chiddush was more Chavim, to state that one first, so therefore that one was stated, and this one still remained the Mishnah, was not removed from Mishnayos, despite the fact that you could have really learned out the case, the halach in this case, from the previous Mishnah. Fine. Now we get to today's meat and potatoes. So back in the two brothers. So now these two brothers married two sisters. There's two issues with this guy marrying her, right? First issue is it's his brother's wife. And second issue is it's his wife's sister. All right? Two Isurim on her. So talking about if he's Ba'aleha, Chayla Mishum Eishes Ach Mishum Achas Isha. David Rabbi Yossi says Rabbi Yossi, you got two Isurim, right? Two Isurim of Eishes Ach and Achas Isha. David Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Eino Chayev Ela Mishum Eishes Ach Zilva. You're only chayev for being your brother's wife. Only chayev for being your brother's wife, not because it's your wife's sister. So Gemara, so l'chayra, right? He holds it's only could be one isser. So v'ha Tanya Rabbi Shimon Omer, Eino Chayev Ela Mishum Achas Isha Bilva. So wait.
Wife died
afterwards. No. In the right now,
everybody's alive right now in this scenario.
No, he's died. I'll say he died. Okay. Well, no, even if he's still alive. Even if he's still alive. Why is Chai Misa? Why the death penalty?
Just finished when he's alive. What they suing?
Let's see. Was he by that also?
That's right.
Wait, we have another case that says he's mishum achasisha bilba. So like kasha. No, it's not a contradiction. So Rabbi Shimon's sheet is not a contradiction. So now as he holds, so you only get one isser. One is if this guy gets married first. Okay, this guy gets married first to her. All right. So why is she usher to him? It's his wife's sister. Right? She didn't marry him yet, right? So she's usher. So therefore, when she marries him, there is no room for a new isser because she's ready. She's ready forbidden them for being his wife's sister. And the other one is the case where this guy marries her first, right? He's single still, and therefore she's now usher to him because his brother's wife. And even if he marries her sister later on, it doesn't add a new isser to be chayiv misa for. So ein isser chal isser. It just happens to be whichever isser comes first. Rabbi Shimon and according to Rabbi Shimon, first one that when this brother gets married first, and this guy gets married afterwards. So since you're just saying, wait, slow down, let's go back to that case. If he marries first, what's the isser? My brother's wife.
Why can't both
If 1 second.
At the same time.
Once something is usher for one reason, right? You can't. It's not chai for additional reasons, right? Logically, you're going to be put death for one thing, one penalty. This item is already usher to me. So what does it make a difference to usher to me for another reason? So ein isser chal isser. Once this woman is usher to me for a certain reason, even if another isser also applies, but there's no it's ein isser chal isser. Right? We'll soon get into the concept. All right. Now, in this case. If the only isser is my brother's wife, and the brother dies, why can't you do yibum? If you say that isser of my wife's sister never applied to her, hey, go ahead and do yibum. Some Rav Ashi isser achas isha mitla tali. The isser of achas isha of my wife's sister. It's not that it's not chal. All right, we'll soon see what it means, right? It means that it's hanging in the air. It's waiting. If for whatever reason she's no longer usher to this guy because of my brother's wife, then the isser of my wife's sister will be chal on it immediately. So therefore, if for whatever reason my brother's wife becomes mutter to me, i.e. he died and now there's a mitzvah of yibum, then the isser of my wife's sister applies to chal, and therefore it's not removed. Fine, so that was that. Now we're going to get to the sheet of Rabbi Yossi. This is going to continue also to tomorrow's daf. Rabbi Yossi isser chal isser. So Rabbi Yossi said you chayav twice. Why? Even though something is usher to you, you could also have another isser applied to that object to be usher to the guy for another reason. But tiny little right, so if one violates an avera, right, there are two misas, right, two reasons to be put to death. So he gets the more severe death penalty, right? There's a level in terms of what's the most severe. Rabbi Yossi Aimer Nidon Bezika Harishayna Haba Allah. No, whatever one, if it's two, both are misas based in, then whichever one is first, whichever one applied first, that one is the one that's chal, and then you can't have a new isser misa upon that.
That's the rule of every case. It's come by the rabbinate.
No. But if you hold isser chal isser, right? That one
You can't kill him twice.
Huh? I know. But let's no, but a person does a b'shogeg, he has to be to chatos, right? This is both chayv kares for.
Like you have multiple malchus.
Right. Now,
Relations with the wife show.
but obviously, right. One people only he's only put to death once. So the Tanya, we learned it right. It says we learned it right. So Ketzad, so Ketzad on Rabbi Yossi. So and Rabbi Yossi says you get only the first. Rabbi Yossi says no, you get the first one. Haballah. The Tanya Ketzad Amahadas Rabbi Yossi Dina B'Zika Rishona Haballah. So what's the case? Chamaiso the Nasis Eishasish. So let's say his mother-in-law was a single lady, and then he married her daughter. I mean, whatever, she was married to a guy, whatever, had a baby, a girl, and then she got divorced. Fine. He marries his wife. That woman is now his mother-in-law. She becomes Chamoso. Isser Sreifa. Okay. Then she goes ahead and gets married. She gets remarried.
So the guy's married to his wife and mother.
No.
He's
married to his wife. His mother-in-law was single. She was divorced from 15 years ago. She gets married. Now she becomes a married woman. A new Isser, right? Isser of Chana. Eishasish. So according to Rabbi Yossi, that doesn't apply. If he has relations with her, he is chayav for mother-in-law. For
Chamoso is more machmer than the
It's not more machmer. Don't say more machmer.
Wait.
There was
You
the
took
first
the first
one.
one.
It was the first one according to Rabbi Yossi. Don't put words in my mouth.
It's
Not
the
machmer.
first.
Don't say more machmer. We'll soon see. But Isser straight was actually more a chum. We'll soon see. Now, Eishasish. Here's the other case. Eishasish. This is to prove the point I'm trying to say to Mayor. Eishasish. She was married, right? She was married to her original husband. Okay, and then he marries her daughter. So first she was forbidden to him for being a married woman. Then once he marries a daughter, she's now his mother-in-law, right? So Eishasish b'nasas b'chamaisa nidon be'eishasish. Even though Eishasish is a less severe punishment, right? So that nevertheless, you don't get the new isser of streifa, which is more chomer. You only have the isser of Eishasish.
In other words, if you
Nidon be'eishasish because that was the first one. Yeah. So Omar. So it's a question. How could Rabbi Yossi over there say, where Rabbi Yossi says he's a chayiv too, right? In our case, you're chayiv for Eishes Achiv and what's it called? And Achazisha. So, but over here, Rabbi Yossi is going to say you're only chayiv for one. In our case, chayiv for two. Somebody go, Rabbi Yossi be'Isser Mosif. All right, so here's the concept. Isser Mosif. Isser Mosif is like this. When there is a new Isser, and that Isser now applies it's more encompassing. It applies, it's usher on more people, right? Therefore, you can add the Isser Chalal Isser. Okay, so we're going to see how it applies in our case. So since something is now chayiv to more people, therefore that Isser is now chal. In other words, there has to be room for that Isser to take place. So since it's now, because there's new there's new objects that's usher to, right? New people that's usher to. So therefore, the Isser can apply. Let's see. Tina no, let's go back in our case. So this guy gets married first. Okay, he gets married first. This is now she is usher to him because his wife's sister. Okay, and then he marries her. Right, he marries her. Now wait, all of a sudden it's the brother's wife. So maybe the new isser. Migo di ba'isiv isser l'gabi achin. Now don't forget. big family, right? There's 5 brothers. There's 5 brothers here, right? Now, there's 5 brothers.
No, that's not, that's a sister. Here we go.
She
Identify.
She's
that's
trying
right.
to-
That's a brother. Now, this case here, when he marries this one lady, okay, in this case, she is only usher to him because it's his wife's sister. But she is mutter to him, right? Mutter. Once she gets married to him, she is now usher to him, and him because it's their brother's wife. So since this Isser of Eishes Achiv is applying to more people,
That's the.
therefore it's Chal. If it's Chal, it's also going to be Chal on this guy.
Depend on the
That's
family
called
you marry.
Isser Mosi.
That guy's married.
No.
Who cares?
We don't care.
He's the cause of the.
No, he's not.
No,
Stop.
different Isser.
Once again,
Wait, the second guy
this
is the one who got married, right?
it's very important. He marries her. These 2 are sisters. Okay. She is only usher to him at this point.
Right.
She's mutter to all these guys. Okay. Once she marries him,
She's a super.
she's usher to these 3 guys. Why? Because it's the brother's wife. Since this Isser is applying to other people, it's also going to apply to him again. So therefore, now she's usher to him for 2 reasons. His wife's sister and also his brother's wife.
There's no longer
So she-
Isser.
So she could never
No.
fall to him.
So you can't be
for-
Isser.
for,
So no, so that's his case. That's what we're saying. Rabbi Yossi goes, if it's Isser Mosi, now there's a concept of Isser Chal Isser, but there's a machlokas, right? Now over here, Rabbi Yossi is saying Isser Chal Isser happens when you could be, if the object is being ushered to more people.
Right.
Since she's being ushered to more people, these 3 guys, she's also ushered to him again. Therefore, Isser Chal Isser in this case.
So
Now,
married to big family.
huh?
It's just 2 serum.
No, you always type 1, but we'll soon see, right? Well, now, one does the shogeg, or we'll soon see. Now, Tina since the Isser applies to the brothers, it's also applying to him. The Nasames, however, where this guy gets married first. If this guy got married first, she is also to all these guys. All right. Then he gets married afterwards.
To the sister.
My Isser Mosif. There is no Isser Mosif. There's no additional Isurim, right? That he's being, that there's more people being ushered to her, right? Just his wife's sister. So therefore, it doesn't apply. So the says, what do you mean? If you want to say, now let's say this. Let's say there's other sisters, not married. When he marries her, he's now ushered to her, and her. So say this is Isser Mosif, right? Say there's no additional Isurim applying. And since there's no additional Isurim, therefore the second one, there's room for it to now Isser Chalal Isser. So my answer is no, that's not true. The Chitem high Isser Kolel. This is a different concept. This is called Isser Kolel, right? Isser Kolel means over here, right, where it's more inclusive. What it really means is that when it comes to Ishus, right, the person being usher it's really commandment on the guy. So it's not that there's new people usher to the women. This guy is usher to more objects, right? He's usher to her. So therefore, this is not Isser Mosif. Isser Mosif would be when he marries her, more guys are forbidden, right, to her, right? Because it's his wife's sister, but no one else has that problem of being his wife's sister besides the guy who's married to his wife, right? So just because he's adding new Isurim by marrying her, no, it's because all her sisters now become forbidden to him.
Right.
That's not Isser Mosif. This is called Isser Kol. Isser Kol is when more objects are included, right, to that one person who's still usher. Now we're going to see this concept in another case.
So that's Kolel.
That's called Isser Kol,
Isser
right?
Kol.
Isser Kol, right? So Ella Amarava. So rather, we had to explain Rabbi Yossi Malani Allah. Really, you're right. Right? He holds that in this case, right, he's not really chayiv two. It's like he's chayiv two. He's only chayiv one according to Rabbi Yossi. He's not chayiv two. He's only chayiv one in this case. Right? He's like he's done two. He's only chayiv once, right, for the first one. So my nafkamina. So what's the nafkamina then? What's nafkamina? Right? If really he's chayiv for the first one, it's no Isser Chalas, it's not Isser Mosifu. So why are you saying it's like he's chayiv twice? He's only chayiv once. So my nafkamina. So the cover of Ben Rishon and Gemurim, right? In order to go ahead and I guess he's chayiv too. So then I guess you bury him, in the area of the basic kvaras by the Rishon and Gemurim because I guess he violated multiple Yisur. I guess if one Isser Misa was enough, then two, then it's even a special a special location in the basic kvaras.
No, I think what's nogay is that when you go up to Shemayim, you're taking care of both Yisurim. You got killed. That's what you're.
But it says the cover of Ben Rishon and Gemurim, right? To bury him amongst the Rishon and Gemurim, to bury him amongst those Rishon. So even though the Maisa you can only kill him once, right? But the Maisa, since he did something so bad that it's really kind of like he was two, so he'd basically be buried with the people who violated multiple Chiyuv Misas. Fine. Uba Plugsa. Now this machlokes actually Gemara is going to bring three machlokes in. And this is going to continue basically the Sundays. So let's start it off. Uba Plugsa, this machlokes is similar to Itamar. Zar sheshimesh v'Shabbos. So now we're going to machlokes a zar. Let's just think it out for a second. A zar, a non-Kohen, right? That does avoda on Shabbos. Now, Reb Chia says now when does avoda? He's allowed to do avoda in the Beis Hamikdash, but it's all, doing the slaughter and all that. And the Beis Hamikdash is only done, right? The malach is only being done for the mitzvah, right? I by Kohen. But if he's a non-Kohen, is a zar, he's violating Shabbos, and he's doing avoda as a zar. That's it. So Reb Chia Amar Chayiv Shtein. Bar Kapara Amar in Chayiv Alachas. He's only chayiv once. Kavas Reb Chia v'Nishba. All right, my guy, I swear, I learned Stein that he's chayiv to them. And Kavas Bar Kapara v'Nishba, and he Bar Kapara he jumped up and he says, my goodness, like Kach Shamati B'Rebbe. Achas, right? It's only one. He's Reb Chia Ladun Shabbos L'Kol Nesra. Shabbos is really forbidden to everybody. And that which we permit violating Shabbos in the Mikdash, it's only Eitzel Kohanim, Hutra. That was only permissible for the Kohanim to violate Shabbos. However, the Kohanim Hutra v'lo Zarim, but only Kohanim, not Zar. So Yesh Kamashum Zaras v'Yesh Kamashum Shabbos. So therefore, you're chayav twice: one for being a Zar, a non-Kohen doing avoda, and one for violating the Shabbos. And he's Rebbe says, no, Shabbos L'Kol is only one Isra. Shabbos L'Kol Nesra. Shehutra b'Mikdash. However, that which you bring b'Mikdash Hutra, b'Mikdash Hutra, ain't kan el Zaros. It's only Zaros. So in other words, it was completely permitted in the Mikdash. It was completely permitted in the Mikdash, and therefore, right, we'll say he only violated. Shabbos was permitted. He only violated doing avoda as a non-Kohen. Second case, very similar case. If you have a balmum, a guy who has a blemish, not allowed to do a avoda, and also a person who's tamei, so he does it. Both of them, I guess, are chayiv b'shemai. Reb Chia Omer chayiv, Shtein is chayiv twice. Barkabar Omer chayiv chayiv once. Cover Reb Chia the Kachshamati Rebbe Shtein. My goodness, I heard that Rebbe said you're chayiv twice. And covers Barkabar Nishba. He's got to be swore. He said, "Avoda, my goodness, Kachshamati Rebbe Yachas. I chayiv one." So he's Rebbe Chia. Lodun Tuma L'Kol Nesra, right? Tuma is aser for all to do the avoda. Shehutra Mikdash, however, in the Mikdash, when they matter it to do the Tuma is done for Rabbim, Eitzel Kohanim Tamimim Hutra is only permissible for a Kohen who's Tamimim, right? Who's complete, is not a Balmum, to go ahead and do the avoda. There it doesn't make a difference if he's Tamim. However, Hutra the Kohanim and Tamimim, Hutra v'loy lebali mum. But it's only permitted for Kohanim Tamimim to do it and not Bali Mumin. So therefore, Yesh Tamashu Bali Mumin, Yesh Tamashum Tuma. Therefore, he has two violations here. One because Bali Mumin, he's a Balmum. Another because the Tuma was not lifted for a Balmum. And he's Kabakabarlo done Tuma L'Kol Nesra. Really, Tuma is forbidden all. Hutra b'Mikdash. However, once we permitted the Mikdash, Hutra, and therefore is permitted for all. And therefore, Ein Kan El Mishum Bali Mum. Therefore, he's only violated for doing the avodah as a Balmum. Case number 3. Zar Sha'achel Malika, a non-Kohen that goes ahead and eats Malika. Now, Malika was the shchita, right? It was not really done. Shchita was done with
Snap
it,
off
with
his head.
stab off his head with his thumb, right? He would slice it. That's how they would shecht, right? Quote unquote shecht, right? Slaughter the birds, right? So that meat, right, is not shechted meat, right? You're killing it. There's no knife there. The Kohen's stump,
Right.
right? So nevertheless, that meat is permissible in the mikdash, even though it was not shechted.
Someone eats it?
It was not shechted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, so he says over here, so Chayiv Stein, Chayiv 2, one for eating the non-Kohen eating it, right? And two for it being what's it called? Nevela. And Bar Kabbalah and Chayiv Chas and Chayiv 1. So covers Rabbi Chiya v'Nishba Rebbe Stein. What do you mean? I heard from Rebbe, you tell you Chayiv twice. It covers Bar Kabbalah v'Nishba. This is my goodness. Kach Shemati Rebbe. Achas only Chayiv 1. So he's clear Rabbi Chiya to say why lo do Nevela Kol Ezer. Nevela is also to everybody. Shehutra b'mikdash. However, when it's permitted in the mikdash, eitzel kohanim hutra. That is permitted to kohanim. However, the kohanim hutra is only permitted, right? The nevela, right, was only permitted to the kohanim and not to anybody else. Yesh kamashum zaras, yesh kamashum b'mlika. Therefore, it was only there is a problem of zaras eating it. There's also a problem for to eat it. Also, yesh kamalika, and also for eating the malika. He's bar kapara ladun. He says no. Nevela called nestra. Nevela is also tall. However, shutra b'mikdash hutra, it was permitted in the mikdash. Therefore, ain't kind of mishum zaras. Therefore, the only issue over here is him eating it as a zar, as a non-kohen. So, but my so what's machlokas over here? The iser, turn the page, right? But my what's the machlokas over here? The iser kailel v'alibad Rav Yosef.
Or the kollel.
Right, we're talking about over here iser kol, right? Iser to go, excuse me. Iser kala, we said earlier, was that it's not also to more people, right?
It's
But
just the category.
so right, but this object, right, is more inclusive. Rabbi Chiya Savar, Rabbi Yosef Iser kala, Amachayev Tarti. That according to Rabbi Chiya, right? That according to Rabbi Chiya, who says you're chayiv too, so he holds that Iser kala is your chayiv twice, and therefore you have the original Iser. And the one that's more inclusive, in other words, that which is more specific. In other words, so therefore, in this case, it applies only. Let's say we print only for kohanim, but not zarim. So therefore, it's yekol. And par kavar sar loy mechayev el b'chad. He's only chayev one because he holds that even Rabbi Yossi holds the iser kolel would not apply in this case, and therefore you only have the original iser, and the other one would not take account because it's not additional, and therefore since it's not additional, it wouldn't apply to the zar. Then we'll have to see further in this case. Fine. Sunday, stop here.